eventually Dr. Bob, one of the founders of AA, he finally said, isn't it time to ask ourselves, what would the master do? Which was where the shift came. Only requirement for membership in this program is a desire. You don't even have to stop, right? Nor do you have to be perfect or morally upstanding, or they would not have let any of the three of us in.
I still really needed to be there. And I would come in late, dressed like a lunatic, and I would need to share immediately. I didn't even know what the topic was. I was that person in the meeting where you're like, oh my goodness. I love being that person who is able to go up to that other person at the end of the meeting and be like, hey, it's okay. Unconditional inclusion I had never really had before.
There was this guy living in the woods out back. He was brash and cocky. I was thinking, man, I hope he makes it, but it doesn't look good. And I recognized this guy's voice. I looked over and it was that guy. He had 7 years of sobriety and he was a leader.
Hey there, and welcome to the Recovery Crew here at Deep Waters Recovery. I'm Dr. Bob Baer, the Recovery and Trauma Guy. That's my TikTok handle. You believe I'm on TikTok. Maybe I'm the only old therapist guy on there, but I'm having a blast with it. Today we are talking about Tradition 3, which is about diversity and inclusion, which is inherent in 12-step recovery. The actual tradition is the only requirement for membership is a desire to stop drinking, which it doesn't really have to be about alcoholism. It's a general idea. The only requirement for membership is a desire to grow as a human being. Kelly Cunningham and Camille Reed are going to join me for this discussion. Here at Deep Waters Recovery, we are training facilitators. We administrate the Braveheart Experience for men and the Deep Waters Intensive, which is for men and women. It's a 3-day opportunity to transform trauma and find that vivid life that we're all seeking. So glad you're here with us. Enjoy the show. You're in the Deep Waters now. All right, here we are again. Kelly Cunningham has come back, and so has Camille. Nice, the return. And you're wearing this. It's another week, but you're wearing the same clothes. What has it been? I am too. Oh, okay. Maybe it was only minutes ago we did the other segment. But anyway, glad you guys are here. Kelly Cunningham, Camille Reed. We're going to have a discussion about Tradition 3 today. It's about inclusion and exclusion and how that all plays into healing and recovery. So, but first, Camille, would you say a bit about what's happening at Deep Waters and how people can get connected and get on this Recovery Crew boat?
Yes. So here at Deep Waters, we are a recovery, advanced recovery and healing experience for men and women. The Deep Waters Intensive, or the DWI, is our 3-day transformational trauma resolution experience that uses psychodrama, bioenergetics, and rituals of empowerment. Our next training to be a facilitator of these workshops is going to be June 4th and 5th. Reach out to us about that, or you can find it on Eventbrite. And that's an opportunity for anyone who works with others to do their own inner work and then also learn some of the action tools to use in groups. And then if you would like to bring this sustainable trauma resolution into the curriculum of your treatment facility, the Deep Waters programming is going to be a good fit. We also have an outpatient program where you can work with Dr. Baer and his colleagues in groups, individuals, couples, and family sessions. So if you'd like to reach out by email, it's going to be admin, ADMIN, at deepwatersrecovery.com, or just go to deepwatersrecovery.com to our website. The phone number is 512-677-7847. Our podcast for the Recovery Crew community comes out on Fridays, and then the blogs come out on Mondays. And you can follow us on all social media, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, like us, share us. And then Bob also has a TikTok where he is the recovery and trauma guy.
I'm a TikTok guy, man. I figured it out.
Yep.
I need followers, though, apparently.
Therapy sarcasm, if you want to laugh.
Wise Ass Therapy Solutions.
Yes.
the psychology shit show, we call it. You like that title, Kelly?
Pure
So Kelly is a guy that's one of those guys that I go to for wisdom around life in general, because 12-step recovery and the philosophies that live underneath that. I believe that you live by that, Kelly, as much as anybody I know. Those are his credentials. I could put a lot more of that out here if I wanted to, but let's just leave it at that for now. If anybody wants to find out more about Kelly, they can reach out to us. And he's one of our recovery crew bloggers as well. And Camille Reed, who is just a dynamite, our dynamite programs coordinator with Good Recovery, doing the healing work. Really grateful to for you, Camille. So welcome to both of you. Glad we're going to talk about Tradition 3 together today.
Thanks, Bob.
Thanks, Bob.
All right. So Tradition 3 in 12-step recovery, for folks that aren't into 12-step recovery, it may seem like, what the hell are they talking about? It has no Tradition 3. What does that mean? But for those of you that are in recovery, you'll know that this is a really relevant topic. So Tradition 3 is the only requirement for membership is a desire to stop drinking. That's for AA. And the other 12-step fellowships, it's a desire to stop acting out in whatever that compulsive behavior is. So this is an important topic that there was a lot of discussion in the early days of AA. Just one scenario, one story that I know about was in the early days. It was like a couple of years into the program, the Akron group. There was a giant explosion in the. There was a guy that wanted to be in there. And he said, I'm a sexual deviant. Now, back in 1937, they're not exactly sure what that means, but he's probably gay. And is what I've understood from the subsequent discussions. And so there was this major uproar about how can, and they had a group conscience, which is one of the tools in 12-step recovery that we used so that, because we don't have anybody that has the final word. There's leaders, but there's nobody that has the final word. It is one of the truer expressions of democracy that I know of. I mean, the United States is a republic. We really don't get a direct say as to what happens in this group of United States people. Right? We get a direct say in our group, our AA groups and our 12-step groups. We get a direct, and we use Robert's Rules of Order to make sure that it's actually, we vote on, it's an actual true democracy. Messy, but true. So this is a pretty big mess. And eventually Dr. Bob, one of the original, Dr. Bob and Bill W. are the founders of AA. And this entire movement that is the foundation stone has been identified as, it came from Dr. Carl Jung's philosophies also. But the beginning of this thing, Dr. Bob was in the middle of this turmoil, and he didn't say much apparently until he finally said, "Isn't it time to ask ourselves, what would the master do?" Which was where the shift came, and they identified that the only requirement for membership in this program is a desire to stop that behavior. You don't even have to stop, right? That's a misnomer. People think you come to AA, you got to. It's not true. Nor do you have to be perfect or morally upstanding, or they would not have let any of the three of us in. Right? Or according to some of the writings of the founders, the first 9 out of 10 of them probably wouldn't have made it through the door if there was a big moral component to this thing. So those are just some things to open up the discussion about this third tradition. Who has thoughts on this?
I have a third tradition story. I sobered up at the River Group in San Marcos, And there was this guy, I'm just going to call him Jimmy for to protect the anonymity. This was over 3 decades ago, so I don't think anybody would remember this guy anyway. But Jimmy was a thief. Jimmy was, commonly known for like one time he was caught by the police at Lowe's loading up a greenhouse onto a trailer at midnight, trying to steal a greenhouse. So Jimmy was the thief. And we had this, we had just moved into our downtown location behind Nephew's, downtown San Marcos. And we had a safe, and I don't think it had been attached to the floor yet. Everybody has those safes where you can put the envelope in and then turn it, and the envelope drops down. And so we just had our safe sitting there under the counter, and somebody, was walking up to the door of the River Group, and here comes Jimmy walking out with our safe. And so, the police were called. We understand that charges were filed, and Jimmy ended up spending, a couple nights in jail. But 2 weeks later, we're all in a meeting, and guess who walks through the front door? Jimmy. You know what? Nobody said a damn thing.
Yeah.
Nobody said a damn thing. Nobody says you can't be here because you're a thief. You tried to steal our safe. It's, hey, Jimmy, glad you're here, brother. Have a seat, Yeah. And that was a very profound experience for me early on in sobriety.
Yep. It's still an ongoing controversy, right? There's the it brings up the topic of, a lot of certain 12-step programs you can only talk about, or not programs, but certain meetings, you're going to get a lot of looks if you're not talking only about that topic, right? Even at the meeting that you and I go to, Kelly, it's very strongly encouraged to talk about alcoholism. It's a kind of a pointed way of saying, take your sex addiction around the corner if you can. But, you and I go to a particular meeting where you're not going to get those looks mostly. It's like, you bring what you got here, brother, sister. But, in the early days, apparently they did a consensus thing where they had all of the groups. At that point, there was just a few enough groups to be able to do this. Send in all of the rules you have for membership. And so apparently they were trying to collate them and figure out and come up with you can't be here if you have too many slips. You can't be here if you have mental problems. You can't be here if you're from, certain social class thing. And, eventually they just had to say, wait a minute, we're trying to save lives here. What are we doing? And there's a little bit, sometimes it's uncomfortable for all of us, right? We would like it to be all nice and clean. And the guy that just comes in for a donut and then goes back out and drinks under the bridge and then comes back in for the second round of donut. Sometimes it's a little uncomfortable. It's like, but what about when I am in that place? You guys welcome me when I was at my worst, dragging, and the kind of sharing that I did when I first came in with the tears running and talking about things that had nothing to do with the program, right? And all I got was, love you, Bob. Can I pick you up tomorrow and get you here? There aren't too many places on the planet where I can just be me and be accepted in that way. It's that in itself could cure somebody's behavior. Just that kind of acceptance. For most of us, we've got a lot of wounds of abandonment over the years, right? So, yep. Did they kick you out when they? Because you were a mess when you came in, weren't you, Camille?
Yeah, no, I wasn't. I was just thinking about that too, because, like you see someone, when you're on the other side of it, you're like, oh my gosh, like this poor person, like whatever. And then like some days you're like, oh my gosh, they're really disrupting this meeting. And then I have to think about myself, like I couldn't like always get myself to meetings very well, but I still like really, really needed to be there. and I would like come in late, like dressed like a lunatic, and like I would need to share immediately. I didn't even know what the topic was, but I was like, I need to share. And like I would always cry like a lot and like over talk, over share. Like I was that person in the meeting where you're like, oh my goodness, like what is going on? And then I never had a ride home afterwards, and I like needed a ride home all the time. And like still, like I love being that person who is able to go up to that other person at the end of the meeting and be like, hey, it's okay. And like, even though I want to go home so bad and like, you know, just like eat dinner and go to sleep, if somebody asks me for a ride, I'm like, okay, I'll give you a ride. Like, as long, you know, it's like feels safe or whatever. But I think that type of unconditional inclusion was something that I had never really had before. And I had never like just had a group around me that was, you know, willing to listen to all of my insanity and like hear me out and not be like, get out, what are you doing? You know, like we all need that when we're coming in, because we all have, like you said, those wounds of rejection and abandonment. So that's really important for somebody who's never been to a meeting.
Yeah.
And like doesn't know what to expect and has to walk through that door and like be so scared, and to have people just say like, you know, be yourself, like show everything, have all of your emotions, and we're still going to love you anyways. It's really special.
Yeah. Well, Kelly and I are in a particular group, and over the last year, we're recording this kind of hopefully toward the end of the pandemic. That's a hopeful idea, but you know, so many people in there have stayed sober through this time, and you know, in this isolation, and then coming in here. And I would say, Kelly, you're about as good as anybody to make sure that people that are coming in the door know that they're, whoever and whatever they have to say is welcome in that space. And you know, I think you know how important that is, right?
Yeah, you know, we have no idea how someone is going to respond to their recovery. I remember about 10 years ago, I was attending Northland, that I claimed that as my home group at the time. And there was this guy living in the woods out back, and he asked me for a ride over to Randall's when I was leaving the meeting. And you know, he was brash and cocky and just didn't really seem to be, you know, to be that humble given his situation. And I remember dropping off at Randall's thinking, man, you know, this guy, you know, I hope he makes it, you know, I hope he makes it, but it doesn't look good. And then fast forward 6 or 7 years, I was at a meeting at Cherry Creek, and I recognized this guy's voice. I looked over, and it was that guy. He had like 7 years of sobriety, you know, and he was a leader at Cherry Creek. And I went up to him, I said, dude, I said, I gave you a ride about 10 years ago, and I was sure you were going to make it. But
oh, man.
Know, yeah.
I'm in the treatment business. I mean, it is an ongoing joke or ongoing truth. We said, do not ever try to figure out who's going to make it and who's not. It's like, really, it's none of us are in that position. And that's why it's important to hold this tradition of, you know, we have to allow people that are not like us. And the other, or at least I perceive they're not like us, right? At the root, we're all very similar, right? We have all of these things that we've built up on our personalities to survive. But when they start falling off, as they do in the program, right? We start leaning in and say, yeah, I see myself, right? And that's what works in the program. When someone across the room says something that, oh man, I did that. Oh yeah, I just thought that an hour ago. There's something that happens in us that is transformational. Whereas in my using life, in that other life, I was constantly trying to make myself different, right? Everything that I did was to try, I had terminal uniqueness, right? When you, and I bring my terminal uniqueness into the program. And then when you say, hey, welcome that, it's okay, whatever your truth is, it's fine. And then I can let it go a little bit. then I don't have to like try to show you who. It's like, well, I guess they're going to accept me even if I'm a mess, which we all are, right? It's let's be broken together. Somebody said the brokenness is we're broken because that's where the light can get in, right? And so that's how the light gets in, is we sit together and we talk about how broken we are, and then we can get some light moving in our life and move forward with our beautiful brokenness together. All right, so I think this tradition is really important for 12-step recovery. I think it's important for the world, right? We've got a world that is at war because they have requirements for each other. We all have, or you got to be this way or I'm going to shoot a rocket at you. Did I just expand that out just a little bit too far, possibly?
No, that was great. I feel like everybody in the world needs to have somewhere that they can go where we all look at each other just as who we are, and not like, try and let aside some of the judgment. But then when you walk out of that room, you can go be as judgmental as you want, right? It's only for an hour.
So, I've learned that, you think of the responsibility statement that you always want the hand of AA to be there, but it doesn't necessarily have to be my hand. My hand is not the only hand in the pot, and we're not all gonna get along. We're not all gonna like each other, and sometimes, like, there was a period where I started, looking for, things that were wrong with recovery, and that why I shouldn't be there. And, I stepped away for a while. And, I think if we get to that point, we have to understand that we don't have to, always, like everyone that's in the program, like some Zoom meetings, even before Zoom, if somebody that I was found a little irritable, was about to talk, that's a good time for a bathroom break. Get up and or step outside and talk to the smokers, because the smokers are always the coolest people anyway, right? And now on Zoom, it's like you just push that little mute button, and when the little yellow window goes away, you know that they're through talking, and then and there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with that. Everyone is not my responsibility, and if yes, God puts people in our lives to teach us, but also sometimes just need to accept that we have, there's certain things that about people that might bother us. So that's when another hand of AA reaches out to them.
Yeah, that's right. And, that phrase, we are people who would not normally mix, which was written back in the 30s, right? That was before there were very many women in the program. There's lots of things that have shifted here, though. That whole section of the book that says to the wives.
There might be somebody in the room that can totally relate to that person and loves that person and can be there for that person. I remember one time I was riding my bike and it was windy, and I was listening to a meeting on my headphones, and it was like, I fucking hate the wind, Sorry, I hope you don't mind me dropping an F-bomb on your show.
We're past.
And then the person sharing was saying, oh, I just love the wind. And it's like, okay, so here we got two different perspectives, So there maybe one person in a meeting that totally irritates me, but then somebody else might say, oh, I just love that person, and that's why we need each other, to, this is a program of just loving and needing each other.
And I don't have to live it. We're not inviting anyone to come in there and be tortured by being surrounded by a bunch of people that just have a different value set, possibly, right? So that's why there's another tradition that we'll talk about, which really points to the all you need to start a new group in AA is a resentment and a coffee pot, right? And then you go create your own, you create your own group that has just a little bit different, a little bit more, maybe, because there's AA groups that are absolutely clear. You talk about alcoholism, you start talking about that drug stuff, and it's not, and it's okay. It's just not I probably won't last long around there, but maybe we get to, within this bigger organization, we get to be ourselves in so many different ways, and we get to have some autonomy about the kind of there's folks that, you know, I was listening to a podcast for the atheist AA folks, right? It's like it's not, the God stuff just ain't happening here, and they're sober. It's like, who am I to? You got to use the word God to get sober? I don't think so. So
back in the 90s, this smoking was a big issue. You know, people, oh man, it drove a wedge between some people. You know, so. But the only requirement for membership is a desire to stop drinking. Not, you don't have to stop smoking.
You don't have to stop drinking either. How about that one? I think that's the punchline. I think nobody's requiring you to stop drinking, only to have a desire. And because some, you know, when I came in, it was like, really? I'm not going to be acting out in the way I can't imagine not doing all the stuff that I've been doing. I did not have a sense that I could pull that off. I mean, so why would I go there? They're going to make me not do it. In fact, I was having that conversation with a client yesterday. They're going to make me do this. Wait a minute, brother. No, forget that. All you got to do is have a desire to grow a little bit. And believe me, they never would have let me in the door if they had that, all the requirements that most people think are in our fellowship. And I think that these guidelines, or the freedom of the guidelines in 12-step recovery, would be very good philosophical, something for consideration philosophically for politics, for every organization. I don't know. I don't think I'll live long enough, but I think eventually Dr. Jung's ideas, which are inherent in 12-step recovery, will be spreading across our species, because it's a more mature way of living with each other. Don't get me started, or maybe I'm already too late. It's too late. I don't know. Do you think we've sometimes I say beat a dead horse, but the other thing is, do you think we have groomed this beautiful stallion to further life? I don't know. I was looking for another metaphor, but anything else we want to say on tradition 3?
I think we got it. Have a desire to stop drinking and just come and be yourself. And if someone doesn't like you, they'll go start a new meeting.
I just have a general comment about the traditions. You know, I'm real big on the traditions, and that's, you know, another part of the genius of this program. You know, I refer to the traditions as why it works. You know,
that's right.
You know, some of the groups like the Washingtonians, the Oxford group, mm-hmm. You know, they fell short of the mark, you know, in terms of, you know, longevity and the traditions are just so important so that we don't mess this thing up with our individual personalities. That it's our common welfare comes first.
Yep, there's so many beautiful things. The next one, tradition 4 in this series, is about each group is autonomous. In other words, we get to have some say in this outfit. I'm not being run by somebody in Washington who's making rules for me that I didn't really have much to say about, right? That's one of the reasons that it's lasted for 85 years. Are we somewhere around there? Yeah. So, man, I'm so grateful for recovery in general, for not having to put that stuff in my body today and do that crazy stuff that adjusts my chemistry. I didn't have any, I don't know, there's no therapist or medication or intellectual intervention or religious intervention that had any effect on me. Maybe I'm a tough case, but it seems like there's a bunch of us, huh, folks? So anyway, great conversation today. Thank you. I think I just do this podcast and series for my own benefit, because right now I just feel I feel like something's been lifted off of me just by being in fellowship with you and knowing that there's some folks listening that are leaning into living a better life, living a life with more freedom, just like we are. So it's exciting. Okay, so let's make the transition here. Kelly, if folks want to reach out to Kelly, and I'm sure there will be folks that want to find out a little bit more about his great recovery, and he loves to help people. That's why he goes to Codependence Anonymous also. No, I'm just kidding. I don't even know if you do, but healthy codependency. The helping others thing we have found out is how we keep ourselves in good shape. So Kelly's available. You can reach out to us if you want us to get you in touch with Kelly. Camille is at the center of Deep Water, so all you got to do is go to the website to find her. And I'm available. So Camille, would you please do the short version of what we're up to at Deep Waters, and then we'll let go of this episode.
Yeah, if you guys want to reach out to any one of us or anybody else who's been on our podcast, the email is admin@deepwatersrecovery.com, or you can go to the website and reach out to us. Our next experiential facilitators training is going to be on June 4th and 5th, so you can find that. We'll be blasting it out on all of our Facebook, Instagram, all the social media. Look for the podcasts that come out every Friday on YouTube or SoundCloud. That's it.
All right. Thank you so much. Thanks for everybody listening. Like, share, subscribe. I'm told is an important thing, especially on the YouTube channel. And okay, so thanks Kelly, thanks Camille, thanks to everyone.
Thanks,
You're in the deep waters now.